Show. Okay. You know. Hi, everyone. I'm getting coached on technicals. Hoping you're out there. Woo! We have had such a busy time getting ready to go to Africa. Africa. So far, there are 0 people on. Now there are 2 people on. Yay! So yes, if I do some technical errors on this particular one, it is because I am in training and I'm trying to learn to be a good modern girl. Ooh, look, you can see the light behind me. There we go. Ooh, see how clever? See what I did there? Oh. So welcome everyone, welcome, welcome, welcome again to the gathering room. Sorry we're on Saturday again this week instead of on Sunday, because Sunday I'm climbing on board an airplane to go to Africa. Do you notice how when you go to an African country, you don't get, no matter where I go in Africa, they don't give you t-shirts that have like the shape of Chad or Rwanda or whatever. What they do is they give you Africa. And this is my wonderful little Africa pendant with the 5 stars of the Southern Cross. Because I wrote my book called Find Your Own North Star, and of course in the Southern Hemisphere you can't see the North Star, so they used the Southern Cross to point due south, and it's a constellation of 5 stars. So my friends in Africa actually had this commissioned. It has 5 little jewels where the stars are. So in a weird way, I wear a cross like my Catholic friends. It's the Southern Cross, but it also points due south, which is like due north. There are all these metaphors for everything in the spiritual journey. So we are going to be talking about spiritual journeys, but I am seeing people coming in from Norway. I'm seeing people from Mexico. Hi, Jimena. I'm seeing people from Africa, from West Virginia. Kristen is here from Southern California. Just looking at your beautiful names, your beautiful faces. Trisha, hi in Alaska. From Houston, from Chicago. It's toasty in Chicago. I think we've got more than 100 people. Let's just go. Okay, so I'm headed on a literal Africa journey, the 20th Self-Transformation Adventure Retreat, a name which I did choose because the acronym is STAR. And stars just seem to be everywhere in my, like every time I write, I end up writing about stars. My current book traces, as does the Write Into Light course, Dante through the Divine Comedy. And all 3 books of the Divine Comedy, the Inferno, the Purgatorio, and the Paradiso, end with the word stars. So I think Dante knew we are all star people. We are all moving through the stars. And we are all literally made of stars. All the matter in your body comes from exploded stars, supernovae, that blew up and created things like all the different elements. They keep making elements until they make the element iron, and then they explode, and they create things like gold and uranium as they blast outward. You are made of particles of exploded star. And the star represented by your left hand may be a different star than the one in your right hand. So we've all made this journey through millions of light years of space to sort of coagulate here as individual human bodies. And then everywhere we go in our lives, we're on a physical journey, but also we're on a journey of maturation and growth. But here's the thing, and this is what I wanted to talk to you about today. As soon as you say you're on a spiritual journey, you've created an error, because that seems to imply that there's a destination that you're supposed to get to. There's an end point, and that you're behind, or that you can go slower than another person or faster than another person. And the interesting thing is that anytime you have a moment of awakening, which is like a little milestone along the journey, what you realize most is, oh, I've always been here. I always knew this. It's like you remember something absolutely obvious, as if you've woken up from a dream where there were no apples in the world, and then you see an apple and you think, oh, there have always been apples. I knew there were apples. It's the strangest thing. So every time I've had a little, what the Japanese call satori, a little bit of light, what it's made me see is that I'm always in the perfect place. That what I ended on last week when I said you can't get anything wrong, there's no mistake. There's also no sort of being further ahead or further behind on the journey. There really is always just the wholeness, and then the adventure, the game that makes it feel like a journey, where you go from not remembering what you are and then to remembering in little spurts. Well, sometimes in little spurts. Sometimes people have huge awakenings. In little spurts, you remember. So what I wanted to do today is celebrate, first of all, how far all of us have come, because I know you guys wouldn't be here if you hadn't spent a lot of time on your own spiritual journeys and, reaching for bits of enlightenment and finding your way and being drawn toward the next thing. So there is the adventure, there are the epiphanies, and then there are the moments that are always whole and always perfect, where you're always at your destination. So one thing I learned when I was a marathon runner a million years ago is that if I was out on a 20-mile run and I was headed back and I started thinking about getting home 10 miles later, so I've already run 10 miles, I've got 10 miles to run, and I would get very, very tired and frustrated. But I learned a little strategy that always helped me feel like I was in the right place. And that is that as I ran, instead of looking forward, I would look to the side. I would look at a right angle, and I would look at whatever I was passing at that moment. And I would become fascinated by that. That's what I'm going to try to do tomorrow when I'm on a plane from LA to wherever it is, Dubai, and then Dubai to South Africa. Always to stop in the middle of the journey and say, not when do we get to Dubai, but what's around me right now? Look, I have this smartphone that lets me play games. How lucky am I? Look, I have wonderful over-the-counter drugs that keep me from having back pain. How lucky am I? Look how wonderful this situation is. I am in a chair flying through the sky. If you've seen Louis C.K.'s thing about everything's amazing and nobody's happy, he talks about people complaining, we had to wait 40 minutes on the runway. It was the worst year of my life, or the worst day of my life. And he says, yes, and then did you fly through the air like a bird, but sitting in a chair, like something your ancestors could never have imagined? So if you just stop and say, whoa, what's happening right now? I'm looking at a computer. I remember growing up thinking, I wonder if they'll ever have a phone that you can see through. And then think that's a bad idea, because who wants to be seen when they pick up the phone? Look at the miracle we're in right now. Look at how far you've come. If you were, God forbid, to die right now, the white light would show up for you and say, holy smokes, look at what you survived. Look at what you've learned. Look at the good you've done. Look at how much you've learned. And if you've made a lot of mistakes, you've learned even more. This is magnificent. You are at a magnificent, full-on destination right now. So soak in that. Appreciate that there's nowhere left to go. You're done. You're done. You did it. Now you can relax. And then what happens is you arrive at a new destination and you get a whole new set of adventures, but without the anxiety of thinking, I'm not there yet. So instead of asking over and over, are we there yet? Are we there yet? Are we there yet? Let's just say, wow, look where we are now. Together, linked by technology, all over the world, enjoying each other's love and fellowship. Pretty amazing. So everybody's already arrived, and I'd love to take some questions or comments from any of you now, because you are more interesting than I am, in my humble opinion. People are just saying how they're finding the blessings and how amazing they are. Okay. Oh, Sandy says listening to me makes her feel like she's on the right track. You know, that's an interesting thing, because no one can actually make you feel something that isn't actually in your body, isn't true in your spirit and your body. So when we hear something that makes us align with the present moment, with what's true in the present moment, we know we're on the right track. Because here's the deal, you guys, there is no wrong track. I don't care if you're down and out, if you're a thief and a sex worker and you're hooked on drugs, there is no wrong track. If you can sit here and realize you're okay, the next step will be towards self-healing. And this moment will always be either a chance for fulfillment or for education, learning. It's always the right track. And remembering that rings that chime of truth in your body, and that's why you know it's so. Okay, Eileen says, I woke up to a robin singing in my backwoods woods property. Be here now, there is no time, thanks. Isn't that true? I mean, being out here in the country and where we're going in Africa, you know, where it's really primordial, even though that land we're going to in Africa was healed. It's not primordial wilderness. It's wilderness that used to be a barren cattle farm and then was healed by a small group of humans. So, but it's got a full natural ecosystem. And when you're there, your nerve endings feel like, oh, thank God. That's the way I feel here at my ranch too. And I hope that's the way Eileen feels. And wherever I go next, I'm going to feel the same way about that. If you can only put in some earphones and listen to the sounds of a naturescape, they have them online, free. Just go to YouTube, put natural soundscape, plug in some earphones, block out the city noise, and be in nature with your ears. You know, your ears are the last thing you lose when you lose consciousness is hearing. And you can feed things directly into your vagus nerve, they think, through the ears and go into a deep state of calm just by listening to natural sounds. That's a good way to know you're on track. So Jimena says, what do you do when you feel a calling to something, but you don't know what that something is? What I do is just keep my attention open and start browsing everywhere. I especially like going online or in a bookstore. I'm not very close to a bookstore now, so I like to go online and I just link to things that interest me. You know, uncontacted tribe in the Amazon. Okay, click on that. A bunch of things come up on the sidebar. One or two of those is going to be interesting. And I click on that and it's like touring the universe. Like we have the ability to do all this stuff and we're drawn towards the things that are meaningful and we don't know why. And that is really fun. It's really fun when you realize you're being led to something. That's how I started studying shamanism. It just started coming at me. And then I started researching it and it came at me some more. So I wrote a book on it. So try just browsing the world because it's full of opportunities to browse. It's really, and be patient. You're fine exactly where you are. There's no there to get to. We're here. We're exactly where we're meant to be. Jessica says, what kinds of birds are playing behind you, Martha? Could be any number of species. I know I've seen a few banded pigeons fly by. They're related to the passenger pigeons that used to cover the American continent. And they are dumb as dirt. So if one of them runs directly into the window behind me, I assure you, it will make it sound like the house has been bombed by, by aliens, but it will not hurt the bird. The birds just smack into the window and fly away going, did it again. Did it again. And we put stickers on the windows. Did it again. Bam! Did it again. Which is exactly how I live my life. So another good metaphor for spirituality. But there, we also have western scrub jays and orioles and tanagers and grosbeaks and a full natural ecosystem out here. It's pretty wonderful. So Pam says, if we're always on the right place, then what advice do you have for discerning when it's time to move to a new home? Well, that's exactly what I just did. And the reason is that a sense of adventure arises in you. So we have a dog named Bilbo Baggins. And if you've read The Hobbit, you know that Bilbo Baggins was a hobbit who went on great adventures. And so Bilbo, who is a certified service dog, just for being awesome, he has a little service dog cape that we put on him. And we call it his adventure cloak because in The Hobbit, Bilbo puts on his adventure cloak. So sometimes we're just going along in life, loving what we're doing, and suddenly the adventure cloak comes upon us. And we have a feeling of, ooh, something new is going to happen. And it's even more exciting when other people feel it too. So I'm going to do this adventure retreat in Africa because my friends there, my friends, the Varti family, who are owners of Landalosi and were the ones who restored the land, we just sort of sat up one day and went, we should bring people here. They should feel this. It's going to be a huge opening for them. It's going to be like a pilgrimage or something. And let's make something up where they come, and it'll be expensive for them, but we're going to make sure that all the money goes into preserving the landscape and the rural people so that they can live in harmony with each other. And we're going to do the 20th star now. And we just all got a feeling at the same time. Right now, my family and I all got a feeling at the same time that it would be fun to go to a different location. And each of us has different reasons. So, but we all want to go to the same place. It's like a miracle, this hive mind that starts to happen when all the bees communicate with each other and no one knows how. That's how humans can be too, if we don't block it, if we don't attach to what's happening now, if we realize we're always at the destination, but the journey always continues. Paradox. Okay, Malvina says, any advice for students preparing for exams, trying to find their way in this crazy system? Oh, my only advice is better you than me. No, that's not true. One thing I will tell you, that studies show that if you study at night and then sleep on it, the sleep puts things into your brain better. So it's better to take short naps than not to sleep at all. So if you're on any journey, like we've been trying to get ready, Ro and I are both going to run the Star this year. And so, but we both feel like crap, frankly. And so what we've been doing is you do a little of your journey. In this case, it's packing and organizing and everything. And then you really let yourself rest. And studying for an exam, trying to make a marriage work, raising children, it all follows this. Nature goes in ultradian rhythms, where you work for a short time and then you rest for a short time, and then you work for a short time and you rest for a short time. We tend to try to go like this, just stay high and busy all the time. And it's not, we can't learn that way. We can't learn spiritually, we can't learn intellectually, we can't learn physically. It's all about resting between times of activity. So, oh yeah. Christine says, guys, I apologize for this plastic bottle. I usually don't use them. Today is kind of an emergency day for me. So Christine says, what do we do when what's happening in the moment is painful? How do we find beauty in pain? The weird thing is, there's so much more beauty in a world with pain than in a world without pain. So if you hear a sad song, in some ways there's a beauty to that song that a happy song doesn't have. So yesterday I found out that someone I dearly love had died. There's been a rash of these lately. And I went online and they had a tribute, and it had music with it. And the music was so beautiful, and the pictures of my late loved one were so gorgeous. And I was trying to track the feelings inside me. You know, when you meditate, I went out for a long walk, I meditated, and I felt the most confusing combination of gratitude, awe, sorrow, and almost exaltation. The passing of a loved one is such a profound experience. And weirdly, there's so much beauty in it. And if you've ever been with someone you loved who died, you know that there are moments of incredible profundity. It's almost like we're designed to experience this world with its pains and losses as spiritual beings. As physical beings, we want everything to be the same and everybody to be healthy and nobody to get sick and nobody to get tired. Believe me, I feel the same way you do. But I think as spiritual beings, we're here for the whole the whole catastrophe, as they say. We're here for the full range of emotions. I once had a very interesting conversation with a tree. This can happen if you like hang out in the wilderness long enough. I could have imagined it, but it was telling me how plants think. And it said, you long for the light that came for you when you were in surgery, when you were 28. I said, oh, yes, I do. And it said that light was the purest white there is. But light, to be pure white, has to contain all the frequencies. And that means it contains all the other colors. And it said you even have words, color words, for the 3 negative emotions. So sad, glad, and mad are the 3 negative. No, glad is good. So sad, mad, glad, and scared. So mad, sad, and scared are the 3 negative emotions. And it said you use yellow for scared or cowardice, blue for depression or sadness, and red for anger, or red hot anger. It said you've got to keep all those frequencies of emotion to create the white light you're looking for. And I said, that just makes no sense to me. And, I don't want any of those negative emotions. And the tree said, what's your favorite movie? And I said, well, that's a hard question, but I loved Shadowlands, which is one of the saddest movies ever made, guys. It's about C.S. Lewis and his marriage to a woman who was already dying of cancer. The tree said, you love anger. And I was like, no. And it said, yeah, you do. You feel good about acting out against injustice. You felt good doing activism for people with Down syndrome, and you were kind of angry at the way they were being treated. I was like, oh my gosh, you're right. So, long answer to a short question, but it is kind of the question of the day. How do you find beauty in pain? You allow it to be part of the journey. If we resist it, pain lasts much longer and as much as suffering. Pain and suffering are not the same thing. So I once went to a pain clinic with my daughter, and above the door it said, pain is inevitable, suffering is optional. Pain comes from circumstances. Suffering comes from resisting our feelings or resisting what is. So when you drop resistance, you have pain, but it flows. It does this. Everything does this. And it does this weird, I watched this grieving my loved one. Deep sorrow would be followed by a kind of holiness for that person's life. And then deep sorrow again, this is a person who died young. And then unbelievable love. And then it just, the beauty of all these waves going through our experience is what we're here for. It's what we're here for, you guys. And every moment is perfect if we don't resist it. Wonderful question. Thank you. Anne-Marie says, what if you feel like you make the same mistake over and over again? On one level, I know everything I yearn for is on the inside, but I can't seem to stop looking for validation from the outside sources like other people. Absolutely. Oh, I'm just writing about this so I could go on for hours about this. Let me just say that if you repeat something over and over and you want something with your whole heart and you're saying, I shouldn't have it, I should get it from the inside, let your yearning teach you that your life's journey is meant to go toward this thing. I went through a period of sort of abstemious, like giving everything up. I don't need anything to be happy. I don't need anyone. I don't need anything in the world because none of it's real anyway. I've come to this really strong realization that none of this was, it's real the way a game is real, but it's not real the way reality is real. And I sort of disappeared from the world. And then my next step was to be brought back in. And I make the same mistakes over and over again. I'm meant to be human and to learn from that. And I heard a saying at that time that kind of summed up what was happening to me. And it is this, it's from the Indian tradition. There is no world. There is only Brahma. So there's only God, consciousness, however you want to say that. Brahma is the world. So there is no world, there is only God. God is the world. I got that there was no real world. I got this obsession with the divine. And then the divine threw me back into being the world and said, play with this for a while. It's all me. But you're meant to have this experience now. Go in. So that's what I would suggest. Keep making mistakes and learn from them. It's what we're meant to do. You're always right and you're always moving. Okay, Sandy says, in terms of personal growth, I'd love your insight regarding the idea of contracting before expanding. Oh, yeah. You can't even help it. You may think that you're supposed to be expansive and open, but there will be times when you're supposed to curl up tight in a ball. In my coaching tradition, if you're a coach, we talk about this cycle of transformation that happens over and over again. And it starts, or one round of it starts, it never really ends. It's like the seasons. But an event catalyzes change in your life. Like right now, I'm going to Africa. That's going to catalyze change in my life. There will be a time when a lot of stuff is happening and changing. And when that place in the journey happens, what you want to do is sort of contract. You go into a kind of cocoon. And caterpillars in their cocoons fall apart. They melt down. So you let the person you were fall apart. And to do that, you have to be a little bit contracted. You have to be cocooned. So don't make any big decisions. Don't work too hard. Like try self-protection, and the grieving process or the letting go process comes in that contracted condition. And then first in your mind and in your heart, you'll feel the adventure cloak come over you and you'll think, oh, it's going to be time for me to become something different. But you still stay contracted for a while. And then there comes a time when the butterfly is fully formed from the melted down caterpillar, when you know it's time to step forward and you have the energy for it and you have the natural expansiveness. And at that point, you can't hold it back. So there's a period of fighting out of the cocoon. That's always a little difficult. And then there's when your wings dry out and you can become the new creature that you're meant to be on this round of metamorphosis. But change is still happening, and that's a beautiful thing. Oh, Rachel says, please go on for hours. But I don't want to go on for hours because that is not a good way to treat people on the interweb. It's just very, very boring. But I love hanging out with you guys. And I think we're gonna do the Gathering Room from Africa if we can, because their internet has gotten pretty darn good down there.
Look out on the page for notices about when it will be on.
Okay, so look out on the page, on my Facebook page, for notices about when the Gathering Room will be on. I'm so just looking at your names, and all your wonderful wishes for the trip. Ooh. Robin says, Londolozi changed my life. So if any of you out there are coming to the star, I cannot wait to hug your little bodies. And for the rest of you, I will see you again through these magical means in our next Gathering Room from Londolozi, South Africa.